I'm gonna get us started. My name is Sam. This is Moses to my left. This is Illia. Welcome to the Jam Room podcast, hosted by Sam and Illia. Our guest today is this man right to my left, Moses Andrews III.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Moses. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you all so much for having me.
Of course. Moses is a multi-talented person. He plays drums, bass, piano. He sings, plays guitar. He just does everything. Session musician, live musician all around Columbia. He's kind of done everything. And so hopefully we're going to learn from him today and figure out what that's been like for him in his life.
Yeah.
Moses, once again, thanks for being here. How you doing?
I'm good. I've had some coffee, and I'm going to try to slow things down a little bit, try not to speed through everything. Now I'm trying to be conscious of that and slow down my speech to make it clear. So, yeah, I'm great. Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. You got any fun gigs coming up?
Well, yes. I have some great things coming up. I play with a few people, just a few, and like a band called The Run Out. I love playing with them. I play bass and sing with them, and we got some things coming up. GFATs, we're working on another record. This will be I think it's going to be an EP, but it's going to be long enough to be an album. So nice. It's kind of in between. I play with an artist named Patrick Davis. I play organ with him and the Midnight Choir. And we got some things lined up in different states, including Florida, the Keys. So that's going to be really cool. And I'm just so excited to be gigging and playing and everything. So
very cool. Nice. And for the listeners at home, GFATs.
George Fetner and the Strays. Okay. Yeah, that's a big question that I get. It's like, what is GFATs? GFATs or GF? What? So yeah, George Fetner is a friend of mine. I met him when I was at USC or auditioning for USC, the percussion program, and he was working in the music admissions office. So that was really cool just to meet him, and I didn't know how good he was at music until I had seen him live one day, and that just blew my mind how good he was at guitar, how good he is at guitar. So
that's awesome.
It's awesome playing with him.
So what kind of music is George Fetner? I feel like I've seen him play a lot, but I've seen of him like playing around town a lot, but I haven't seen you guys personally.
Yeah, I think I could tell you his influences more than I could tell you the style.
That's fair.
Because it's George Fetner and the Strays is a huge band in town, so it's like 9 people, 9 members in that band. So you got like I'm on organ, but you got 2 guitars. You got Craig Butterfield on bass. You got Matt Finnick on drums. Then you have an auxiliary percussionist. That's Jeff Vaughn, and you have trombone, trumpet, and saxophone, and it's just a lot of people all the time. So George's influences are like Fish, Grateful Dead,
nice.
Things like Lettuce, some James Brown, Beatles, things like that. So we play a lot of that stuff, but also add horns to some of the things that don't have horn arrangements to it. So George is a great composer. He went to USC for composition, so awesome. He makes really good arrangements. So
would you say that's like a jam band style musical project, sort of?
Yeah. Okay. I think that's something you could label GFATs as. That used to be a derogatory term.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because people used to make fun of jam bands, like, oh yeah, this dude's in a jam band. They just, because some people didn't think that would be a huge thing.
Sure.
But you see all these bands and they're improvising, and they are laying their heart all out there and showing people, hey, this is what I feel at this moment.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
And then sometimes you see people stand on top of the organ and bang on the keys and stuff, like Fish. So sometimes it can get weird, but that it's so cool. And GFATs could be a jam band. And it's great because they're all excellent musicians, and they're all great people. So
that's awesome. So a concept that I've been thinking about recently. So you have a lot of musical genres that are played live and are focused around improvising, right? So you have like blues and jazz and bluegrass, and you have all these genres that are like kind of centered around there being one form, and you like improvise and take turns improvising. That's why I see so many like blues jams and jazz jams, is because you see a lot of that sort of like soloing, improvising thing. And yet, like there's a difference between like that and a jam band. You know, like you wouldn't call like a blues band a jam band, despite there being still a lot of like that element of like improvising. It's like, what do you think is the difference between like a live music experience that is centered around improvising in the context of blues or jazz versus like a jam band improvisation?
I want to be. I think a huge difference might be influence. Also, maybe the way you dress. You know, because I mean, jam bands, they tend to be like attended by hippies. You know, you know, and chill people who like to dance, and you know, blues or jazz concerts or shows. I mean, you don't see many people dancing around like that, but at jam band concerts like Fish and bands like that, you see people dancing around. You know, they might come up. You know, they might show up already lifted. You know, so you know they're so they're already
way to say that.
Yeah. I just thought about that. So they might be, you know, feeling good when they show up, and you know, and no chairs around, so they're all, you know, waving and dancing with each other and twirling, and you know, it's an experience.
Sure.
So some people are pretentious, and if they're sitting and listening to their band, they don't want people having fun. They're just like, I'm just going to sit here. I want to respect the people on stage. I'm going to sit down and just listen and nod my head.
Sure.
And they encourage people to move around. So
True.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, so kind of switching gears into more your musical career, your musical history. What was the moment that you realized you wanted to do music like full time as a job?
I think it's when I was a teenager. I knew I wanted to do music, but for years I've been told that I couldn't because the community I'm from, they're like, you're never going to make it. You're never going to make it unless you have money. If you have tons of money, you're probably going to make it because you got, you know, people to pay. You got money to pay people. But since you don't have money, you're probably not going to do music because you got so much equipment to pay for. You have to pay for lessons. You got to pay for gas to get to places. And I'm like, well, watch me. I'm going to try to do this. I'm the person that likes to prove people wrong. And that is something that I've always done, is to prove people wrong. Because I did come from very humble background, a very humble environment, and modest means, if you will. And yeah, we didn't have much money. At one point, I couch surfed. We were homeless. And so that was something that was not possible at that time. But I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep playing in middle school bands. I'm going to, you know, maybe play for somebody. And I started taking lessons when I was in 4th grade, actually. And I only had a couple lessons on piano, and I hated it because I had homework. And later, I would play after church just on the piano in the back of the church. And pastor at the time, he had seen me. He's like, you're going to be playing for the church. We're going to Asheville this afternoon. I'm preaching, the choir singing. You're playing a song. And the next Sunday, I was playing in the church next Sunday morning.
Wow.
And that's something that it made my dream more real to me.
Sure.
And music has always been a dream of mine because I've been surrounded by music. My mom, she had a gospel singing group. And, you know, they might not have gotten paid, but you know, they had fun and they sounded good. I remember it just like it was yesterday, just hearing those voices, hearing the band. And that was a huge influence for me getting
That's awesome.
started.
Yeah.
You know, and to go back to the full-time thing, I love proving people wrong. And the day that someone told me that you'll never be famous, you'll never be on a stage somewhere, that's the day I said, yeah, I want to do this.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
and I've played with people like Steve Watson, who's played on Magnum PI. You know, sorry, I'm talking to the camera right now. Yeah, Steve Watson's played on Magnum PI. The A-Team, he's played with Dolly Parton, a few other people, and he was a guitar teacher. I think Zach Bingham has studied with him as well.
Shout out Zach Bingham behind the camera, mixing, mastering, recording. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah, and that's one guy that really encouraged me to do it as well, because he really loves his students and has some really strong combo classes. And I was just fortunate to just be there playing drums in the class, and he learned I played piano. He was like, "Yep, you're playing piano in every combo. You're not playing drums for." So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you started on piano then? That was like your first big primary, or you started on?
Actually, I started on percussion.
Okay, gotcha. Would you I get like in the band kind of like the marching band context? I guess you said.
Yeah, but earlier than that. Okay. So also growing up in the church, I might have watched keyboardists and organists, but we all loved beating up on the drums.
It's true.
And, you know, after
point.
church and, you know, playing in church, if we didn't want to sing in youth choir, you know, we'd, you know, hang around the drummer and maybe, you know, sit in on a song or two.
Sure.
And yeah, later, you know, started playing drums. But then after that, since there was a necessity for an organist or a pianist, I then jumped in later. So
that's awesome. It's cool. Nice. Man, I think there's that moment that a lot of musicians experience, sometimes early on, sometimes later in life, but it's sort of that moment where you get onto a stage for the first time, and you honestly, like, as much as music is not about money, but honestly getting paid for your music for the first time is like a huge deal for, I think, a lot of musicians, because it's like, for so long you're like spending money, or you're like spending all this time and effort.
Or people are telling you that, like, oh, you're not going to make money from it, or you're not, like, you're just, you know.
And it's kind of like, you know, sometimes you'll get on, like, recital stages or something, and it's, like, all these, like, opportunities you kind of have to pay to be part of, or, like, you have to give more of yourself to. But then you kind of get this first thing of, like, and I think for, like, most people, it's probably, like, $75 or $100 for their first, like, you know, Sunday at church or, like, coffee shop gig or whatever it is. You're like, oh, my god.
Maybe even less than that, but.
Yeah.
Oh,
less than that, but like that moment of like, holy crap, I played for 2-3 hours and I got paid money for it, and now I can like go, you know, do whatever I want with that money. And it's like, I don't know, that's sort of the moment I think a lot of people have of like that realization of like, oh man, I can do music as a job, and I can like work as a musician, you know, because it's, you know, everyone can be a musician, but like working as a musician is like a really special privilege, and that's like a really remarkable feeling, I think, for a lot of people to get that initial kind of feeling of, I don't know.
It's, and you mentioned earlier, like, someone was like, oh, you'll never be famous. I'm always curious about that for every musician. Like, do you want to be famous?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't want to be famous. Like, they see, I think people, and some people are like the media, but what they see in front of them on the screens or anywhere, you know, they're always paying attention to that person in like a lofty place. They're always seeing the person with all the glamour, all the shine, and they're like, you're never going to achieve that. And I'm like, that's not what I'm reaching for.
Right. Sure. That's not just what being a musician is. Like,
right. Yeah. And I mean, you have all these notes that you have all these possibilities in, you know, harmony, and you don't hear that all the time on the radio. You don't hear that on the TV. And, you know, when you discover that you have all these possibilities in the sonic spectrum, then that's like the meat of it, you know, to try to learn the different voicings and everything. And it's like, you're always learning. I'm not trying to be famous. I mean, I want to play, but I don't want fame because that comes with a whole lot of other things too. By the way, my first paying gig was church.
Nice.
Yeah, and I got $25 every Sunday. And I'm like, that's enough for snacks.
That's $25. I'm not gonna shake my head at $25. You know.
And how old were you in that?
I was 11 years old.
Oh yeah, $25 and you're 11 years old. Like,
Yeah.
You're wealthy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could get Ritz crackers, and I got my was it like honey pecan cream cheese, honey pecan? Sorry, my bad. Yeah, and I got that, and then I got my chocolate milk, and I had enough to get some pizza the next day.
There you go.
At school. So
Yeah.
yeah, because
That's a win.
I got free lunch,
Absolutely.
but sometimes you had to splurge for some Papa John's. You know.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So obviously, you said you started on drums, and then you played piano in church. And I know personally, like I know that you play everything else. So I would love to hear your thoughts. So obviously, you've played a million different instruments, bands in the studio, but specifically, like I would love to know sort of how your understanding of each instrument's role has been informed by being able to like play all of them in a live context, like playing bass versus playing drums, playing keys, singing, all that different. Like what have you learned about each instrument's role in a band because of that?
Thank you for that question. I think you have to play each instrument like you're a different person. When I'm playing bass, and people have seen this firsthand, when I'm playing bass, I'm a completely different person. When I'm playing drums, I'm a wild man. I'm an animal sometimes, and because you play into the drum, you find the right resonance in the drum. When I'm playing piano or organ, it's like you're just kind of filling in the space, you know, and you're the bed for everything to lay into, you know. You're the bed. Like the first person I recorded with, he's like, let's put an organ on this rock song. I'm like, what? And yeah, it's going to be an organ bed. So it's not going to be out front, but it's just going to be something that everything can lay in. You know? And so sometimes, I like being in the background when I'm playing organ. I don't like being up front, really. So it's like, okay, this person is like, all right, cool, I'm just chill. The drummer is like, all right, I got the beat. You know, the bassist is like, I'm just living in your world. But this is the groove. So I play a little guitar here and there, but I won't even say I'm proficient, really. So I play just enough. And so that person is like, all right, cool, I'm going to be in this other room just hiding away playing my guitar, you know? So, try to be different people, because you can't think, if you have the same approach on every instrument, I don't think that helps the music much, you know. You have to have different sounds and different personalities, because when you look at a band, you have all these different people that come together to create this huge, different, diverse sound. And so you have to think like that, I think, you know.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
I mean, yeah, what I was thinking about while you were talking about all of that is just how, like, sometimes, and I've had this conversation a million times with everybody, is how it can almost feel like there's this competition between different band members depending on who you're playing with. And I've mentioned before that it's like usually specifically like guitarists and vocalists just like always seem like they're we stare at each other. But it's like, but the way you're describing it is it's like, it's not a competition, and like it never is at the end of the day. It's never a competition when you're playing in a band with people. But I love the way you're describing it, because it's like, yeah, sorry. Just how all those people and all those personalities work together to create something. I think that's really beautiful. And I think you have a really cool perspective on that, being a person that has to play all those different things sometimes.
Right. Yeah. And like being a session musician, like sometimes you're called in to play a lot of different things on a record. And some people, they come in, they're just like, I have lyrics. I'm like, do you have a scratch track? Do you have a rough track? And they're like, nope.
Wow.
Can you sing it for me? Sometimes they get me, or they get me and Zach Bingham and Evan Simmons, but when they call me, I'm like, all right, cool. How can I shape this song? And I have to think of the song as if I'm a whole band coming in.
Sure.
And they may know each other, they may not, but you have to create this sound as if you're different people. Yeah. And that's also how I approach my own music. My solo project, still Moses Andrews III. I try to make every instrument sound like it's a different person, so no one knows it's me unless they look at the credits. So,
man, that's
really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Take.
Yeah.
I like that approach. Yeah.
So, follow-up question: bass, drums, keys. What is the funnest genre for each of those instruments?
Oh goodness, that's a hard question to answer because, gosh, you would say funk for bass, but gospel music. And gospel music is expansive. Mm-hmm. It's such an expansive genre because you got quartet gospel, which is like, it's not for people, it's like old school, all male, and they're pretty much just entertainment. And that's what people think of when they think of gospel, if they haven't grown up in that context. But even that is like, okay, bass is just boom, 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 boom. It's like a country, a black country kind of thing. But churchy. And then you got contemporary gospel, you got the choir gospel, like in the 80s and 90s was huge. But even in that, bass was just, you had to be solid. You had to be right. And I'll probably never get to that level on bass because you have people like Sheree Reed, who is just killing on bass and playing with this 80 to 150 member choir. And the band's just slamming. But bass, you got to be solid when you're playing gospel, funk. Organ, oh my goodness. This is a hard question, Goodness. I like to talk about organ more than piano because I'm more an organist. Sure. But yeah, piano, this is really hard. This is real hard. Let me go to drums. Drums, the genre for that, I don't know. I think they go in everything. I think every genre. I can put organ everywhere. Drums belong in everything. Bass. Bass is the foundation. Sure. So I don't have a really good answer for that.
That's okay. I was curious.
Yeah, but organ, of course, like in church, gospel music, organ is king.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That is the thing. Besides the vocals, organ is sometimes the main instrument in a church.
Sure.
And I'm talking about Hammond organ. A lot of times you have a Hammond organ and you have a drum set. Sometimes you have someone playing piano, and that's the environment I grew up in. You had an organist and you had a drummer, and bass was added later.
Yeah,
guitar was added later because on the organ you got the bass pedals and you got everything else. You got the two manuals, just like the Hammond C2 over here in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
cool.
it provides everything you need except the drums.
Sure. Yeah. The B3 sound is just so massive, sonically. I totally. It just fills out so much space that you really, I guess, only need drums and organ. And I know there's also like sort of a this sort of archetype of like an organ trio, where it's like drums, organ, and guitar. And I've heard some people of like the famous bands like that say like the best bassist of all time is their organist's left hand, because they can just
yeah.
Which I don't know if I take that as you will, but it's an interesting thought for sure. Okay, so next question. and answer this however you like.
Okay.
What have you observed going from being? I know you were a worship leader at a local church around the Midlands.
Yeah.
Versus now you're more like playing the secular kind of world, playing like in studio work and in like live sort of cover gig work, as well as some like original projects. What's been like some big things you've observed going from like being the worship leader at that church to more of the secular music industry kind of world?
Well, for a long time, I was doing both at the same time. And there are churches that don't allow you to play in a secular setting if you're playing for them. And I've always been fortunate to do both at the same time. At the beginning, I had to fight for it, but and my mom did too, because she saw the value in playing outside the church. But the key differences for me, because you still have people who are hired in the church. Like I was a hired person in the church. Before I became a worship leader, I was an MD in different bands, and I know how to build a band. I know how to direct a band. I love doing that, and I kind of miss it. But shifting into a worship leader mode, that was a crazy transition. But doing that for almost 7 years at a local church in Lexington, and then for 7 more months a church in Camden, it shaped up to be pretty cool. The hardest thing was people.
Sure.
Because you got people who love you, and then you got people who are very critical. Some of the most critical people, this is controversial, some of the most critical people will be in the pews.
Sure.
Because they're critiquing like who you interact with outside of church. They critique how you interact with them, how you interact with people as you're leading worship. And even before they even meet you, they're like, I don't like your style of music. I'm going to the traditional service. So that's crazy in itself. But shifting into, I guess, a more secular, and actually, I feel like everything's sacred. So,
sure,
so that's also a little side thing. But into a more secular environment, and also playing more secular music, a big difference is, I guess, how people see you.
Sure.
There are people in the church that will never go into a bar. They'll know, because, I mean, some people think, those are heathens. I'm never stepping into a bar. I'm never stepping into a club. Like, why would I go to a show? Like, why would I do that? But they'll go see Beyonce. They'll go see the Tams. Y'all know the Tams? Am I dating myself? I'm only 31. They'll go see the OJs, or they'll go see other people. These huge rock bands, but they won't go out locally to see people. And that's a lot of church folk. They'll critique what you're doing, but they won't go into those spaces. And I've always felt like it was, not only did I want to play music, but I also wanted to go and be with the people. The people that didn't judge me, the people that weren't too judgy, because maybe they also have some of the same things going on as I do, like church trauma,
sure,
and all of that stuff. And they understand me a lot more. So, I guess it depends on also the type of church it is. So, because I know some folks from like a Black Baptist church or a Pentecostal Kojic church who will go to an R&B or a soul or a funk show.
Sure.
And they're like, I'm going to have my drink. I'm going to have my meal that comes with my ticket, and I'm going to dance.
Sure.
Because, they like dancing. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's also like so many musicians that will like play the late Saturday night gig and just wake up and go play at church the next day, which is like, I mean, I definitely personally have been that person lots of times. I mean, there's definitely some nights where like I would play until like 1 or 2 at Breakers and then wake up at 5:30 to go play at church the next day. So
I've done that.
Turnaround,
Oh yeah,
that's a quick turnaround. Play that much.
Sunday nap is part of the schedule.
Yeah. All right, that's a great answer, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad I came around to that because I mean, I was like, where am I gonna find that?
Yeah. Okay, so we got a few more questions I'd love to get through. I think this is kind of a basic question, so answer it however you like. What has been your experience working as a session musician, especially here at the Jam Room, sponsor of the podcast? We're at the Jam Room right now. We got all these crazy amps in the wall. We got a great producer behind the camera. Come check out Jam Room if you need to record something. Good people over here. But I know you've worked a lot at the Jam Room as a session player. I know you've also done a lot of live gigs. So like, what has been like? Describe your experience, like doing both of those things, and like what kind of like, yeah, I guess like what do you like about each of them? What do you maybe not really like about each of them?
Well, okay, so for session work, sometimes you come in like never meeting the person before. You come in, you're like, okay, got chord charts. Let me hear your rough track, and you get to an instrument and you start playing. You got a couple takes, and if you get it in a couple takes, then you get more work with that person, you know? Sometimes I take like 7 or 8 takes and I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I? You know? But doing session work is, it's a really cool thing because you meet so many people, and sometimes you have to kind of translate what someone is saying into something you can understand and something you can put down on a track. Because some people, they know how to write lyrics. They can write a song, or maybe they can't write a song, and you can reshape that and rearrange something. And you have to come with so many different mindsets when you come into a studio. Live and playing on stage in different bands, there are so many things that can happen. Sometimes you can, hit something wrong, and you're like, oh, well, that just went by me. Okay, cool. Let's do it again. Let's keep going. And you have all this chemistry with people on stage. You have an audience that can see you, and you can see them. You can see their reactions. You can see if they don't like what you're playing or if they love it. And I love playing live, but I also love playing in the studio because you're like, all right, cool, I can try this again and I can do it better.
Sure.
And sometimes you even get something in the first take and you're like, oh, let me do a couple more takes just to make sure, just so you have something to choose from. And so you have so many chances to get something right. Especially if you're working on your own stuff at home, because I also record at home, and some people send me a track and they're like, hey, can you drop something on this track? And that's been happening a lot lately. And so I've been dropping like a synth or an organ or some bass on someone's track and just send it back to them. And so like working remotely like that is so cool, and being able to just drop something on a track just in a few minutes and get paid for it, that's huge. Cool. Huge. And cool. Sometimes studio work pays a lot more than live, especially local gigs. If you're playing in a band and you play on a show, if you don't have a guarantee, sometimes you walk away with like $20.
That's true. That's real.
Yeah, especially if you have a lot of people in your band. So you have to find gigs that pay well. You have to find venues that can handle like what you do at the level you're playing and the number of songs that you're playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, with the studio, you can come in with your rate that you think you're worth or you deserve. And sometimes you come in, you're like, oh man, thanks for the deal, man. Like your rate, wow, you paid, or you charge that much? man, that's awesome. And you're like, what am I doing? Like, am I charging enough? So you also have to balance that.
Sure.
So it's not all about the money, but I mean, you got to pay bills.
Gotta pay bills. Pay rent.
You gotta get paid, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would. So I'm just curious. Are you like is it like a flat per song rate for you, or is it like an hourly thing? So I think there's like, honestly, I'm just asking straight up for my own purposes,
Right.
Because I just got booked for like some of the first sessions that I've done, and I'd love to know like how you sort of price it and what you've learned about that.
It depends on how many instruments you're playing, also how many songs.
Sure.
If I'm playing on one song and they're asking me to play one instrument, I might just say, just pay me this much.
Sure.
But usually I come in with the rate because they have a number of songs that they want to record. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to charge this dollar amount per hour. And if it takes a while, I mean, the time you're in the studio, you're still thinking about what you're going to be playing. You're still in the space. You've driven there and you're going to drive back somewhere. So an hourly rate, I think is best when you have multiple hours in a space and you're waiting to record, or you start tracking. If you're playing multiple instruments, definitely.
Okay.
But if you're playing one instrument and you're playing one song and you're probably going to get it done in an hour, then a flat fee is fine. Okay. And if you're like, I'm still going to charge an hourly rate, and you get something done in like 20, 30 minutes, that hour, charge for that full hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I think that's cool, because you're playing at a certain level and you're like, I got this song figured out. And they pay you for that, figuring that song out just like that.
Sure.
So,
yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so a couple more questions. I would love to know. You can be as specific or as what's the unspecific? Is that right? General.
There we go. There we go.
Specific
Some
or
synonyms.
as vague as you want, about like when you accept or decline specifically like a live gig.
Ooh.
What are the factors for you?
The factors, one is definitely how long will it take me to get there?
Okay.
Will it cut into my family time?
Okay.
And am I willing to give up family time for it? I have, at the time of this recording, I have a 3-year-old. And I have a wife too. Yeah, Jenny's great. And family time is important.
Absolutely.
And Miles is still young, and quality time is so important right now. And seeing me at home is so important. Being around, because I didn't have that growing up. My dad was around for my sister, my older sister, but then I came along, he just gone. Yep. So quality time is important. So that is a factor that factors into like whether I accept a gig or not. If it's a well-paying gig, if it's a great experience, then I'll consider it and I'll say, hey, I'm going to put this on the calendar and we'll see if it works out. But also, well, this is rare for me these days, but who's playing?
Sure.
If it's someone I don't vibe with, then I might not take it. 'Cause, I mean, sometimes there's competition, and sometimes there are ill feelings between people. Sometimes you heard something through the grapevine, and you're like, I'm fine. We're gonna have to talk first before I join that person on stage. But it's rare in Columbia that I've seen. It's rare. And when I was in Greenville, when I was growing up, that was a very common thing because, I mean, you interact with so many different people, and, it was a, close-knit kind of environment or scene, and you could hear things all the time. Someone's like, oh no, I'll keep this, I'll keep it to myself, and then they'll end up telling you like, hey, so and so just And
Yeah.
goodness, especially in like the church organist world and the gospel world. Oh, goodness.
Man.
That was cutthroat.
Yeah.
And in Greenville, I knew a lot more organists there, and there was a lot more drama. A lot more drama. Down here in Columbia is so different.
That's interesting. I feel like I hear a good amount of drama, so I can only imagine what it's like. If there's
Right.
more of that.
I mean, I hear guitarist drama sometimes.
Me and Zach are always fighting. Yep, it's true. No, that's hilarious, man. That's interesting though. I appreciate that. Illia, would you like to close us out?
Oh yeah, we just like to ask at the end kind of about your favorite Columbia spots. So I'm trying to be more general with this because I think the first time we did this, it was like specific things, and I'm like, not everyone likes the same things.
I
So
mean, you can ask me specifics, but
I'm gonna just go with this. Firstly, if like, where are you gonna go for a meal? Like, where's your like local spot? Just like, it can be anything at all, and it's like that's just where you gravitate towards.
that's hard. So I love Curiosity. I love their breakfast sandwiches. Love their coffee. Falafel King has been a thing for me lately. And
I saw you post about that. Yeah.
yes,
Where's Falafel?
it's like the corner of Gervais and Hardin.
Okay.
At that Shell station, and yeah, they're attached to that. Like on the other side is a liquor store, but on the corner is Falafel King, and oh my goodness, their wraps. I mean, of course, falafel. They have bowls. They have like all kinds of street food that you can choose from. And someone told me they had some paneer tikka masala.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
So I think they need more business. So I'm trying to send more people
Yeah, there you
there, and it's so good, so good. So anytime we have a spot in Columbia where you get food that's different than like hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff,
Absolutely.
Also, their pasta salad is amazing. So if you like pasta salad, you check that out. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So you need another spot?
Sure. If you want to keep, you keep going.
Granby Grill just closed, but I think they had the best fries. Yeah.
Why you even tell us, man?
But
No, me and Sam talk about the wig like every week. So.
yes.
RIP.
Yeah, R.I.P. Loved the wig, and they will forever be in my heart, just deep down.
Yeah.
The burger was my thing. But Granby Grill, I think they're rebranding. I think they might still be open. I think they might
Just hoping.
just some secret openings. I think they were joking online talking about calling themselves Granby Burger. And but I think they have the best fries in town.
Okay.
Their fries are like the fry that I think of when I want a fry.
Okay.
And they're not too skinny. They're not steak fries. They're somewhere in between, and they're crispy on the outside, and they have that creamy inside. The middle is just so, and they're seasoned well. So that's a big thing for me. Seasoning is huge for me. It's
important.
So if I go to Cookout, I get Cajun fries.
Oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
I feel like not enough people order like the Cajun fries Cookout. Like they just get fries, but it's like, man, you got to get the Cajun. fries.
Yeah.
Get Cajun fries. Yeah, it's just like growing up, I had Checkers, and they're well seasoned. My dad worked at Checkers for a little bit, and going there, getting a burger and some. Well, now we're talking about burgers, and getting their fries, man. The pepper, anything they had on the fries, I just love that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, other spots we like to ask about. Where's your favorite place to go get a drink if you want to just go out for the night?
So what kind of drink? Are we talking about beer? Talking about cocktail?
Let's do like, if you're going to get a drink, just to hang out somewhere. Go be with some friends somewhere.
If I go hang out somewhere, it's probably going to be a Transmission. Oh, that's a spot that I missed.
Yeah.
That's true.
Transmission smoked wings. Their okra, when it's in season, is like the best okra. But yeah, I would go there for a drink, whether it be beer poured into a glass or bourbon or a cocktail of some sort. It's great. Great vibes there. They have pinball. Yeah, it's definitely a great place to hang out. And next door is the Joint. I can hear the music through the walls sometimes, and I can go back and forth because I love Terry. And I love going to Transmission too.
Love Terry.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I go have a drink, and also the Joint because it's just home.
It's the spot, man.
It's the
Sweet.
spot. It's the Joint.
It's the live music place for live musicians. You know what I'm saying? Or just musicians in general, I guess.
Yeah, that's like service industry folks going to Bar None after you get off. Or it used to be Kelly's. Kelly's, over where the Aristocrat is now. People used to just go to Kelly's after work and just watch the sun come up the next day.
Wow.
So that's a little insider. So
man. Well,
I was gonna have one more question.
please ask me.
Which, because we have musicians on the podcast, I have to know, and I feel like you already have answered this a little bit, but just like, where is your favorite place to go consume live music? You're not playing for the night, but you just want to go see what's going on. Where are you going?
The Joint.
Okay.
The Joint. Yeah, that's the spot there, and seeing musicians play at such a high level and sing and everything, and the Joint is a spot where you can see people's heart just pour out, and you feel the warmth coming from the stage, no matter how cold it is. You feel that warm blanket just hugging you, and that is the Joint for me. And getting a handshake and a hug from Terry, and we always trade cigars whenever we see each other, and it's a crazy tradition. I don't know how it started. I think it's maybe because I was like, "What you puffing on?" And he's like, "Oh, you can have this one." And I'm like, "Dude, thanks." And the next time I saw him, I gave him a cigar, and then he gave me one at the same time. And that's just So
love that guy.
Yeah, love Terry Morgan, and even through everything he's been through and is going through, he is still a loving person and provides such a great atmosphere for everyone, and sometimes he gets up and plays guitar with people. And that's always fun to see. But yeah, I love the Joint. So
awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen y'all at the Joint.
Oh, yeah.
That's always cool. And
October 13th, right? For the Joint.
You cannot ask me calendar questions. I don't have.
Nick Blandis. I think it's the 13th. Pretty sure. Anyways. Yeah. Well, Moses.
Yeah, it is. You're right. Okay. Anyway, because I just thought about. Yeah.
Moses, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
Check out his original music. Check him out for session work. Check him out if you need anything for your live gig, because he's the man and knows how to play everything, and it's a great hang. And we love Moses a whole lot.
Yeah, if you need anything at all, probably you can just ask this guy.
Just a good conversation, honestly.
If you want to talk about kimchi, if you want to talk about fermentation at all.
Yeah, brewing beer. He's brewing some pumpkin beer right now.
Yeah, making hot sauce.
Okay.
All kinds of stuff. All levels, but mainly like the stuff from like hot to extra hot.
That's the best level, man. Right there. That's what you want.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Moses, for being here.
Yeah,
thanks to the Jam Room for providing this awesome space. Thanks to Zach for mixing us and recording us. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all have a good one.